Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Those Two Geeks. He's Alex. I'm Joe. Once again, we haven't changed. And we're doing an off cycle recording tonight. And, we've been packing more shows in, but we're doing a show tonight. We don't know where it's going, to be honest with you, but we just know we wanted to connect and do a show.
Yeah.
And it started that we were just chatting about AEW, and we figured, you know what? We're not going to talk anything WWE. It's not happening tonight. We have a very special place for that in another show. But tonight, everything else is on the table. And you and I like AEW. Matthew's not a
Yeah.
big AEW person. I love AEW because I know what AEW can be.
Hmm.
I don't like the hate on AEW. Like when people hate on something just to hate on it, it drives me crazy.
Yeah.
It isn't
Oh, for
the
sure.
level of what it was. That's when I hate on it. I will hate on certain things because I remember 2019, 2020, and 2021, stellar television. I had a conversation with someone today and it didn't click in my brain, but now it makes perfect sense why there's been a huge decline over the past couple of years. I forgot that Brandy Rhodes was a head writer for AEW
Oh, that makes
backstage in those
sense.
formative years. And the shows were fabulous back then. And since she's left with Cody, the shows have taken an immediate nosedive. And because back then Tony Khan didn't take everything onto himself. He had Brandy, he had a few people backstage kind of helming the ship. Brandy is a really good writer. She
Hmm.
does good promos and good segments. And like, there's a couple memorable segments with Cody, even in WWE, that I was like, oh, yeah, that's a Brandy type thing. So I give her more credit. Now, on stage and on screen, is she insufferable and people want to change the channel?
I
Yes.
I often think though when someone is insufferable on screen, I mean, obviously, ideally, you want them to be. If that's
You
the
do.
intent, great.
You
But
do.
if they're insufferable and like you're just annoying and I don't, it's not that I don't
Wheeler
like
Yuta.
you, but
Yeah.
yeah. I now, funnily enough, I love seeing Wheeler Yuta on screen because he's so annoying. He's
No.
to me, and I'm not in any way saying he's on the same level, but to me, he's like a baby Dom Mysterio,
Yeah.
right? Like he's nowhere near the same heat at all, but
No, no.
he he could be at the same level eventually if he keeps up the
Right.
current character. Now, I don't mean to compare him unfairly. I just think that that's kind of where I see Wheeler Yuta going at the
Yeah.
moment. But yeah, so to your point, we had said that the AEW TV storylines haven't been great over the last little while.
Yeah.
I I don't know, and maybe it's just me. The last couple of weeks, I think the
They've
last 3 or
improved.
4
I
weeks,
will not lie. They have
they've
improved.
yeah, okay. I thought they've been getting significantly better, and I think a lot
They
of it
are.
is some of the and we both know I'm not always a fan of when stuff outside of the show impacts the show. So
Hmm.
how the Death Riders did the interview on YouTube.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that, and sometimes oh
I haven't
man,
seen it
just
either.
like if you're gonna do it, just put it on the show. But they are doing clips of it here and there, and
Right.
it does
Oh,
it
is
does
that
it
what they're doing with Renee backstage and they're breaking
yeah
it up?
that
And
yeah.
it's
So
phenomenal. It's phenomenal.
there's a full interview on with all of them. It's like half an hour long, so they're just
Okay. I
breaking it up
need to
with
watch
clips and
that.
stuff. So
I need to
uh,
watch that.
yeah, like for me right now, AEW is firing on all cylinders, and I'm aware, and I will fully admit to the irony of me saying this. It's I think it's because as much as there is a lot of wrestling still in AEW, that
Hmm.
they're doing a little bit more backstage promo stuff.
They have to.
And I'm thinking like, okay, I understand where Joe comes from when you say you enjoy that because it totally
Hmm.
builds the story. And I know
Yeah.
WWE is much heavier on that.
Way heavier. Yeah. I'll agree.
And I think that right now AEW is finding a much better balance between in-ring action and promo. They're definitely not as in your face with some of the story as WWE is. And
No.
there's definitely some cases where like I have no idea why this match is happening. But
Right.
honestly, if it's just one of those things where they've got a match on there and it's going to build into a story down the road, I'm fine with that.
Well, I had a thought the other day too. Is AEW, when it initially started, they had like records and standings, like a real
Yeah.
sport. Like, you would have your win-loss record, which is something WWE doesn't do and no one does because stories in kayfabe change. They want to be able to ignore what they want and then keep what they want, when it's relevant. But I liked when AEW was like, this was the standing. And when Tony Khan initialized it, he said people will get title shots. Obviously, it's all scripted, but
Yeah,
people will get title shots based upon their standings. That only lasted for like a year. And like
I,
every entrance, they always had the rent win loss record.
yeah,
And then it just
I
dropped
I
off the
miss
face of the
that.
earth.
I
I do
think they
too.
probably found it hard to keep it when you've got like legitimate stories taking, coming into
Right.
place of, well, Swerve and Danielson, even if Swerve isn't the number
Hmm.
one contender, there's still going to be something there,
Yeah.
or Danielson isn't the number one contender. I think the issue with that is that if you need someone to move up the rankings, but you don't really want someone else to move down, then you've got to have like
Yeah.
either a squash match or a match where they're go like you can have Hangman Page take out
No.
Max Caster, and
Right.
even if it's not a one-sided match, it can still happen. But how much time do you dedicate to that kind of stuff? And I think that's where Dark Elevation was so good, because you could have someone like Max Caster come out and build his win-loss
Yeah.
ratio on that show. So I think
I just
I
think,
miss them because they were great to have
yeah.
just showcases for indie stuff in a way that NXT
Hmm.
and Rampage aren't, because those
Right.
folks are already contracted. Oh, sorry, I said Rampage, I meant Ring of Honor, but in a
Ring
way
of
that
Honor, right.
they're not really contracted. You can have, you come in and do a dark match if
Yeah.
you're somewhat trained and you're popular in the area, and you can, hey, come
Right.
down, do a dark match, we'll see what happens. And
And the thing with AEW is when they have somebody do a dark match or where they have somebody on like Dark Elevation or Rampage or on even YouTube, it's not a like that person who comes in gets a little bit of shine. And
yeah,
sometimes in rare instances, like what's his name? It was
Action Andretti.
Action Andrade. Andretti, and he won the match. Like
Yeah,
WWE, whenever there's a jobber in the ring, they're just fodder. They have never won. It's a foregone conclusion. They don't treat it serious. Like there's no showcase. AEW showcases really well, but what
I
I don't think they should be doing is trying to be WWE
no,
competition. They have to keep their fans that like them, because the fans who, unfortunately, we've gone over this thousands of times and we will
yeah,
probably tomorrow.
oh, of course.
Tribalism exists and it's stupid. I don't understand. If you like something, I like all of it. I want it all to succeed. But the,
Hmm.
the thing is, they have to stop trying to be the next
I
WWE, or
agree.
they have to
You're
focus
not
on what works.
Yeah, you're not going to be able to. WWE has been around for what, 50 years
Eons.
almost?
Yeah. Well, now
Eons?
I think it's like, 40. I mean, I think it's like almost 60 years now.
Yeah,
You're
so all
not
right.
going to
So
beat that
WWE's
machine.
been around longer than you and I.
Correct.
You're
I would
if
hope
you're
so.
yeah, oh yeah. Like if you're not AEW is what, not even 10 years old. They're not going
It's
to
five.
beat.
It's five
Yes,
for
all right.
that.
So they're 5 years old. So they're not going to be able to beat WWE at their own
No.
game unless WWE really implodes. And I don't want
Correct.
that to happen.
No.
I think while WWE are always going to be the big fish in terms of people associating wrestling with a specific
Correct.
brand,
They're not the only.
no, they're not the only ones. And I think AEW is a solid second. I would love to see them
Hmm.
get closer to WWE in terms of ratings. But
Same.
as Matthew has said, like, what does success look like for AEW?
No
And
one knows.
and
That's
frank,
the big thing.
yeah, and frankly, as long as Tony Khan is still paying the wrestlers,
Right.
fairly for what they're putting themselves on for or putting
He
themselves
pays
through.
them better than WWE, in all honesty, a lot of situations. Bobby Lashley's
I've heard
making
that.
more in AEW. There's a
I've heard,
reason
and I'm
why. Yeah,
yeah, like I'm happy for them that they have that opportunity. I'm sure John Moxley's making good money in
he
AEW.
is.
I'm
He's
sure
making
that
way more than he ever made in WWE.
yeah. So I'm
Yeah.
happy for the folks that can do that.
But
I
you know what it is it's the WCW paradigm.
Yeah,
Ted Turner was a billionaire, and Tony Khan's a billionaire. Surprise, surprise. He's paying he was paying Buff Bagwell crazy money for just being on the roster. When it comes to wrestling, you have a shelf life unless you're
hmm
like Jericho and Taker and people who can continuously reinvent themselves and keep longevity. So yeah, if WWE is going to pay you 500,000, but AEW is going to pay you 1.5 million, our inclination would be, oh, jump to AEW. But the thing is that 1.5 million, that's great. But eventually, if you don't have everything correctly behind you, that's it. In WWE,
Hmm.
you might get 500,000, but look at Jey Uso. He got, I mean, he's in the millions now, but he was
Yeah,
getting, close to a million. But his merch sales are second in the company. So all of a
exactly.
sudden, you get that, and that's why people always want to go to WWE. They don't go because you're going to get the biggest money contract up front. It's not the way they operate. You go because you're going to get the best program, showcase, and creative team behind
Hmm.
you for longevity. That's
And
why they go.
yeah, and I think that with Words of Fame, with AEW, I feel like it's much more of a Tony lets the wrestlers dictate a lot of what they want to do with the character as well, which I think is
Way
it
too
has
much.
it. Yeah, and but I do think it has its place at the same time because it allows a bit more creative freedom. It,
Hmm.
it doesn't fit every wrestler. Like I think for John Moxley, Hangman Page, a lot of the guys like that, and Swerve Strickland, it's fantastic,
It's perfect. But
right?
Ricochet, he needs to be written for. He needs to
Honestly,
have a creative
I
team
I think he's starting to figure himself out more and more because they're giving him
a
Swerve to
little bit.
work off, and I
Right.
think Swerve is Swerve is the ace in the hole that I think
He's so good.
you don't
Swerve is
realize how good he is. Like
right.
that man, and Tony needs to throw all the money at that man to keep him
I agree.
around.
Swerve,
And
when he lost to Danielson, that was the heartstrings thing for me.
hmm
I selfishly wanted Brian Danielson to get the
yeah,
AEW title because I knew it was the final time. He's not going to get it down the road, and I think he deserved his flowers. What I didn't expect was for Swerve to just get pushed in a completely different direction. He should be at that top of the card. I like the feud with Ricochet, but for
hmm
me, the money match that they should be pushing is MJF versus Swerve. There is so much meat there with real
yeah.
life and them being tight and everything. And MJF is in a criminal spot on the card right now. Swerve is too. Like Moxley is a king, and they got to
Yeah,
do something with it. Like either let
I'm
Adam
not gonna
Copeland win
lie.
it or just
Oh
pull the plug
yeah,
on the Moxley thing. I'm sorry. It's
I'm
not
not gonna lie.
working.
I loved the MJF Dustin Rhodes promo.
Oh, I
I
did
thought
too.
that was phenomenal, and I think it goes to show that Dustin Rhodes is still incredibly underrated.
Hmm.
Um,
You
so
know the
I'm
funny thing about Dustin Rhodes is when he was teaming with Cody, as I think they were called the Golden Roads, or that's what I
mm,
called them. Dustin Rhodes was 50 or close. He was knocking on 50's door at that point,
yeah,
and he
he's
was in
54, 55 now.
okay, so no, he was in his late 40s, but he was in incredible shape. His brother was in his early 20s. And Cody in the WWE first run did not look anything like Cody does right now
No, he
aesthetically.
didn't.
Nothing. Dustin Rhodes at that point was so jacked and so well put together still. He looks exactly the same that he did in his
Hmm.
final run in WWE. Dustin Rhodes is so good. He really is.
Yep.
MJF and him is I like that program. I like Jeff Jarrett, but I just there's something about it that doesn't fit for me long
No,
term.
and honestly, Dustin Rhodes is more believable to me as someone that would chase the world title than Jeff Jarrett.
Agreed. And he's never had any world title in any federation. He's never
No.
sniffed one. So I
Um,
think you're right.
yeah, so it's one of those things. I'm like, Jeff Jarrett is fine, it's good, but I think it would be more
Yeah.
interesting if he's doing his, the veteran doing one last gasp, but he just doesn't get
Hmm.
anywhere near it. Like I think it was the right call to have Claudio beat him. I
Yeah.
think it was the wrong call to try and put Jarrett over strong, but that's
Right.
again, that's um,
Jarrett's time was in the Owen Hart Invitational.
hmm
He should have won it, but not gone to Wembley. They need to have that be something different. It should be like for the TNT title or the secondary. It shouldn't be for the
yeah.
world title. You know what I mean? But
It's funny.
yeah,
So I really enjoy how they AEW set up the different tournaments with different belts. The
yeah,
Continental Classic. I know
it's so
it's a riff from
phenomenal.
the
It's
G1.
actually, but it's
It's
great.
it's one of my favorite things about it, and I love the fact that you've got the Continental Champion who obviously enters the tournament and can
Mhm.
lose without actually losing the
Right.
final round, right? Like I thought it was phenomenal, like really interesting that Okada didn't win every match he had. He drew
Yeah.
with Daniel Garcia, so he puts Garcia over, and he lost to Kyle Fletcher, which I thought again it puts Fletcher over. But then you've got Fletcher losing to Mark Briscoe, which was like that's a choice. I did
Mhm.
not see it happening. I think it does set up a future rematch between the two of them that I don't think Briscoe's going to win. But I really enjoyed how Fletcher lost the match to Briscoe because I mean Briscoe is a great character on
He's
TV.
unbelievable.
So
He
I'm
is
happy that
unbelievable.
he's getting a bit of recognition that way too. And yet at the same time, then you get Okada all of a sudden feuding with Buddy Matthews, and I don't.
Mhm.
Again, we were talking about this a bit before we decided to just start recording
That's
because
that's why we decided we were in that
yeah.
conversation.
So Buddy Matthews is like you and I are both on the same page about Buddy Matthews, Buddy Murphy
I
as
like him
being
a lot. He has
same.
a lot of potential.
He's got a lot of power, a lot of
Mhm.
strength, and yet he can fly when he needs to.
Right.
And of course, then you put him next to Brody King, and all of a sudden he looks like bloody Jeff Hardy
I
because
know.
Brody King is just a monster.
And
And
Brody King can move too. Like he's no slouch at all.
I I love their double team finisher, the
Mhm.
um the cannonball basement drop kick thing. I think it's
Yeah.
phenomenal. And it all said and done, like I know Brody is 350 some pounds, but when he throws himself at you, it looks remarkably safe. If you watch it,
Right.
he always hits up high and then rolls down. So yeah, he's going to roll over you, but he doesn't throw himself into you, which I think is really cool.
Yeah. So is Malachi Black gone?
I think his contract expired and he didn't renew.
So he would be going back to
I
WWE.
I assume
Yeah.
honestly. So it's funny. I think Malachi Black is the kind of guy that he's phenomenal in the ring and he's incredibly
Mm.
creative. I just don't think the creativity translated as well to AEW,
No, it didn't.
right? So I think AEW is better with creative in ring in terms of allowing you to showcase there. Like Julia Hart is doing
I love Julia Hart.
really well, and then you have Buddy and Brody just tearing things up. Like I think ever since Malachi Black has left,
Mhm.
those two have
They've
not
gotten better.
they've not looked they've been so good.
I know.
And and Matthews v Okada coming up for Grand Slam. I can't wait. I genuinely think this might be the moment where you see Okada lose the belt. I hate doing the whole they're in Australia, they're gonna have all the Australians
He
win.
should
That
lose the belt, honestly.
I
Okada,
I agree.
it's overdue. It's
I
well
agree.
overdue.
I just think that they're not gonna have every Australian win. So I don't know if Tony Storm is gonna go
I
over
know
Mariah
that's the
May.
thing. Yeah, you
I
can't have them both.
like I don't know if Harley Cameron's gonna beat Mercedes Monet. I don't know if Buddy Matthews is gonna beat Kazuchika Okada, but one of them's gonna win, maybe two.
Yeah,
And honestly, I think the one most likely to lose is Tony Storm.
I agree because then it extends this program, and
Yeah,
I'm glad you were segueing into that right now, because as much as like any wrestling fan has to admit when things are done right, like yes, AEW for the most part, except for the past couple of weeks, has been an absolute train wreck and a slog if you're trying to watch it. It's just very tough. But there are like some shining lights. And to me, the shining light far and away is the Tony Storm Mariah May program. It is so captivating, so entertaining, and so well done. They are just up in the ante every week. And it's just like I thought I had it booked. I told you a year ago, or almost a year ago, that they're going to do an amnesia angle and Tony is going to come
hmm
out of it. I'm glad that they didn't go that route because it's cliche. I like that Tony remembered the whole damn time when she came back and was just playing a role. I thought that added something I didn't see coming. That was an amazing promo, but I have to admit Mariah May is a great heel. Like she is what Mercedes Monet thinks she is, Mariah May can actually back it up.
Yeah.
She's so creative. She's so good. She's on all cylinders. And like, I think honestly, as much of a big fan of Britt Baker I am, I think Mariah May is the best women's champ AEW's had thus far. Her run is just great. In her heel, I mean, it's unparalleled. Tony Storm, what can you say? She's amazing. They didn't use her in WWE. AEW gets her, WWE doesn't.
Hmm.
Um, I think Tony will get the belt back sooner than later. I just, is it predictable if she gets it in Australia? I kind of would rather see Buddy Matthews go over Okada there because it's less expected. I don't want it to
Same.
just be, oh, we're going to Australia, Tony's going to win. I think
Yeah,
that's
and
kind of
I
hackish.
think it makes more. The thing is I don't. I want Omega and Osprey to main event,
I
and I
hate
think
that team. I think it's, ugh.
honestly, so I love the team because I
Hmm.
think Omega is the more I watch him and the more I appreciate just how good he is in everything he does,
Hmm.
and I I'm happy that he's with Osprey because again, like Osprey, the more I watch him, the more I appreciate him. So the two of them
Right,
together, like I don't, yeah, the story's a bit janky about how they got there. This is one of those moments where like I don't care because I'm happy in the moment that it's happening. There's enough
right.
meat on the bone for me to accept that. You know what? I'm fine with how it's come together. The enemy of my enemy is my friend, sort of thing,
Yeah.
and then they become closer. That's fine. I'm fine with that.
I
So I
mean,
think,
I just don't like the spot Omega's in. And I'm not saying I don't like the spot Osprey's in. These
yeah,
are two top echelon guys who need to be at the very, very top of the card. These guys should be like right under John Moxley's heels, nipping at him. Personally, and I'm a diehard John Moxley fan. I've said it over and over and over
hmm,
and over. You got to pull the plug on this. It's just not translating. The YouTube stuff, those little segments, I'm adoring. But then when it comes to the week to week in ring and everything that goes on during the show, it's not working. Either you need to trim some fat, like cut Wheeler Yuta out, or do something different. It's too much. It's been almost 6 months. They need something different. Like I get what John's saying is he's trying to, iron, sharpen, your iron by iron, make AEW stronger. I liked that part where he's like, I don't want one me, I want 1,000 me. I want
mm,
somebody to take this from me because that means they're ready. Like I like
yeah,
the tough love and all that, but they need to build it during the show. And they're not doing that at all. It just meanders all the time. And it's like he's better than this. The idea is wonderful. I love the
yeah. It's
idea.
I no, I agree. Like I'm really enjoying the storyline,
Hmm.
and I've said that before. I do think it could be better,
Oh, it
and
absolutely
I
can.
think that you and I are both. It's funny. I think we're in agreement with a lot of things wrestling related. It's just we tend to approach it slightly differently. So I tend to be
Right.
more of an optimist and just say, hey, I'm happy that I get this on my TV. I'll watch it. Could it be better? Yeah, but I'll accept it
Yeah.
as it is. And I think and I'm not saying you're wrong in this. Don't misconstrue that.
No, no,
I
no.
think that you've been a fan for so long that when you
Mhm.
see something that could be better and it isn't, it makes you angry.
It makes me so angry, dude, because
Yeah.
it's not like I remember the golden age. I
It's
mean,
like,
I was at AEW's second
yeah.
televised show ever, and it was such a breath of fresh air because we had been treated to WWE for almost 20 years without competition since
I
Vince killed WCW.
I
It was
honestly
so
think
different.
AEW is the best thing to have happened to WWE
I
in
think
20
they
years.
wouldn't be anywhere near
I
the
agree.
height they are right now
I
because
think
it pushed them.
without AEW, you wouldn't have had Roman Reigns going for as long as he
Mm-mm.
did.
You never would have because they needed an answer to AEW
Yeah.
because I don't care what people say. They're like, oh, go back and check the ratings. It doesn't matter. The buzz with
Rating, schmating.
AEW
Yeah.
in 2019, people were leaving WWE because they were tired of six-man tags on Raw and the same formula that John Cena comes out and cuts a 20-minute promo to start the
Mhm.
show. And like it just got tired of it. Tony
Yeah.
Khan knew that. and basically put an indie show on your TV. The
Yep.
problem is he didn't sustain it. When WWE kicked his ass, instead of saying, okay, I'm going to have an answer, he just started trying to do what they were doing, and it
Mm.
doesn't work.
I
Like,
think
what is
they
the
seem to
answer
be
to Moxley
different.
right now?
The
If
answer to
you're,
them,
what is it? Is it Edge beats, I mean, Adam Copeland beats him? Is that the answer? Is
yeah,
it
I
Omega
don't,
beats him? What's the
I
answer?
don't, I don't know. And it's one of those things where I don't think Omega beating him. I think Omega beating him is probably the right answer 'cause they can rewind or
Right.
revisit that match. I
Mm-hmm.
think Omega having a major face run as champion would be
Mm-hmm.
phenomenal.
Right.
The Like, don't get me wrong, like I think Omega is great. I do understand that him being an EVP does put it in a bit of a weird
Yeah.
position. It would be like if Paul Levesque, Triple H, wrote himself back in. I know he can't for medical reasons, but if he wrote himself back in and had himself
Right.
as a 10-year champion,
Correct.
it would look a bit funny. So I think in some ways I like the fact Omega isn't near the title scene right now, that he's dealing with Don Callis. I like that. It For me, it keeps him and Ospreay out of the scene legitimately. So they're trying to take
Yeah.
care of personal business. I I still think Orange Cassidy made great sense to dethrone Moxley.
But they wasted it. It's
They
past
did.
its point now.
Now that being said, if Orange Cassidy comes back as a Death Rider, I would be
Ooh.
really interested to see how that goes. But the man is he's been. I think it made sense for them to have him and in many ways Darby off screen. Darby's climbing
Right.
Mount Everest, so that's
Yep.
he's going to be out for that. But it makes sense to have OC out. The man's a workhorse, and he would refuse to not
He
work,
is.
right?
Yeah.
So I think him being off TV is the best thing that could happen to him right now.
Right.
And I can't wait to see him eventually come back. And I really hope that he's the person who dethrones Moxley, who comes back with a new, not a new gimmick, but a slight
Yeah.
change on certain things. So
See, I would love to. I mean, that's a great, like, see, you opened up a door that I didn't even think about. If Orange Cassidy came back and became a Death Rider, like he knuckled under and became a Death Rider and just like ousted Wheeler Yuta and beat the
mm,
shit out of him, I would be okay with that because it's different. You know what I mean? It
hmm
would remind me a little bit of when Daniel Bryan joined the Wyatts, but we haven't seen anything like that in a very, very long time.
no,
I'm just saying to you right now, from a booking standpoint, with the talent they currently have and what they've run with Moxley, I don't know what the answer is to the Death Riders. And honestly, it's being booked almost like week to week. I don't think they have a clue where the end
no,
game is either
I
at all.
I kind of agree. And it's in some ways for me, it's not too dissimilar to Roman when
Right.
just before he started feuding with Cody, like what was the end game for Roman? There
Mm-hmm.
wasn't anyone. And then Cody comes back and it's like, is it gonna be Cody?
Right.
And Cody loses WrestleMania. So then it's well now what? Is it still gonna be
Right.
Cody? Is it gonna be someone else? So again, I recognize that we're touching on WWE again and we're
No, but I mean,
trying to
like,
stay away from that.
I love Adam Copeland.
Yeah.
I don't think he's the answer to John Moxley. I think he gets a
I
good
I don't I
because
don't
he's not
either, but
healthy. You
no, I
can't
don't think
carry him.
he's the answer either, but I really enjoy the build up that he's putting into it. And I think when inevitably Moxley does beat Copeland, I think it's going to
Hmm.
be interesting to see what happens there.
Yes,
I think that Copeland versus Moxley is a match I really want to see. I think that Cope's gonna put Moxley over though.
I think so too. And honestly, I think at this point in his career, like he can't go the way he was. He's too
No,
injury prone. You can't
yeah,
throw the title on him and then the next week fucking he breaks his leg or something. Right
exactly.
now, this is the longest term story I think AEW's had. Like directly with a stable. Like Moxley's the
With a stable,
kingpin.
yeah, with a stable, yeah.
So you need somebody. And I was like, who is it? I thought it could be Samoa Joe, but the way
hmm
they brought him back, no way. It can't be
No.
Samoa Joe. The way they put him on the card, I thought it could be Swerve. Don't know. The only other person I was kind of toying around with is Eddie Kingston. But are we going to put Eddie Kingston there? Because there's history, and that would be great because they're so tight. But is Eddie Kingston the answer either?
I don't.
Like, I
I
don't
think.
know if they
I
have
think.
one.
I think you could feed Eddie Kingston to him. I
Hmm.
don't think he's the answer for that.
That's the issue I find is Tony Khan doesn't seem to have a direction. Like he doesn't know where the story's going. He's going with the flow. And again, we're not talking, but I'm just making a parallel. That's what makes WWE so different and good under this regime is when Paul Heyman said 2 years ago, I thought it was a joke during a scrum. When they said, how far into the bloodline are we? He goes, I think we're in the third inning. That was 2 years ago. He was right because this thing is planned out in advance. Like they WWE books like 6 months in advance and they pivot if they have to, but they know where it's going. There's a framework. Tony Khan books everything like it's all in the first AEW show. Like it's a one night indie show, and that works for pay per views for him. But it doesn't work for episodic TV because it's so lost in the sauce. You can't
And the
figure out
funny
where
thing,
he's
the
going.
funny thing is that there are times when you can see he's clearly struggling when someone's injured, and
Hmm.
you're like, that's I would have to put a holding thing in now until we can
Right.
pull someone in. So it's like he plans ahead, but doesn't have a plan B.
No, he just throws it together. And the problem is they have an abundance of riches. They're
Hmm.
embarrassed for talent. Like they have more
I
talent than I think WWE in all
I
honesty.
was I was gonna say for my money,
Yeah.
AEW had so WWE. I realize while we're trying to stay away, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
WWE has for folks that could legitimately, in my mind, become champion. They have maybe 4 or 5 guys, and that's between two major world championship
Hmm.
belts.
And we'll get to that tomorrow
Y-
because I can't wait for that
I
discussion.
agree. I agree. So, folks, when you're listening to this, this is coming out on the 9th of February. The
Yep.
show that we're referring to is going to come out the week after.
AEW has a round robin of people, if
A,
they pull the
A,
trigger, that could be
AEW
champion.
has, so we say maybe 5 or 6 guys for WWE between two belts. So that's 3 people
Right,
per belt
right,
on average. I would say
right.
AEW has at least 10 people right now that I could see is legitimately holding the world belt.
100%. They have close to a dozen. Easy.
Yeah. And if folks are listening to this, like, no, they don't.
Oh, they do.
They have Kazuchika Okada. They have Will Ospreay, Kenny Omega,
Yep,
Hangman Page, Swerve
yep,
Strickland.
yep.
Yes,
MJF.
some of these are previous champions, but my point still
Right.
stands. You got MJF. You have
Bobby
Bro-
Lashley.
Bobby Lashley. You have Brody King.
Yep. You have Kenny Omega.
Yeah, we did say Kenny Omega, but you know what I mean? Like, we've got so many of these folks who could do this,
Yeah.
and yet they Jay White. I can see Jay White easily being champion
I
for a bit.
At one point I could have saw him definitely. You have Hangman
I
Page. You have Adam Copeland could, but I wouldn't do it. You have Christian who
Yep,
could unbelievably do it. So I mean, they have a ton of different directions. The
one
problem
hundred
is
percent.
this particular story, this kingpin of AEW has left them in the Roman Reigns situation,
Hmm.
except Roman had a clear direction. You knew like the showdown. You have no idea where this is going with Moxley.
No,
Who's
and
going to do it? You have no idea.
I often think, and I read this somewhere, and I often think that when it comes to the world belts, and this is in
Hmm.
both promotions,
Yeah.
to me it makes more sense to only defend those at pay-per-views.
Right.
So
And your,
then you could, so if you,
Intercontinental and your TNT are your workhorse titles that are on
yeah,
the show every
exactly,
week. Right. I
exactly.
agree.
So now, yes, AEW does have 3 mid, lower than upper card belts sort of thing.
Right.
So I recognize that there are just probably one too many there. And I say one too many because I think the Continental is unique and I don't want to see that go anywhere.
Right.
I think if anything, the International needs to go because I kind of
Yeah, the
forget that
international.
exists.
I keep forgetting that too. Who is the champ? Oh, it's
Konosuke
Takeshita.
Takeshita. Yeah.
Takeshita, right.
So I think that one needs to go. Just because there's too many, or if they're going to do a
Agreed.
brand split where you've got so many belts are defended on
Hmm.
each. on each show,
I
that's
don't
fine.
want them to do like, see, that's the thing. I want them to be the anti WWE. I
I
don't
yeah,
want
oh,
them to do the
I don't
same
want a
thing.
brand split, but that to
Right.
me that would at least help explain why or you only have the TNT defended on Dynamite and
Right.
International on Collision. That's the only time they're defended with Continental doing its thing.
Agreed.
That said, so if you only had the world belt defended at pay-per-views,
Hmm.
it allows you to have that time so they can fight to get to Moxley and
Right.
he can do whatever he wants to do. But
Yeah.
because of the way they used to do it, we'll have a world belt every time or every other Dynamite. It
Yeah.
kind of throws that into the shitter a little bit.
Right.
But
The
again, it's easy.
streaming deal helps them more
I agree.
because eventually you're not going to be paying for pay-per-views. That helps them.
I agree.
It also helps them in like direction. You can't be having like, oh, this Dynamite's a Grand Slam and this Dynamite's Winter is coming and this Dynamite, like
Hmm.
there was too much of that. And like you said, they need to
When
be
when
more
everything's
events.
special, nothing's special.
Right, exactly. That's the thing. If everything
Hmm.
is a dream match every week and you're blowing your load every week, you're not leaving anything for people to grab
Look
onto.
forward to. No, I agree. I agree.
Exactly. But
So
in ring, oh my God, they're just
I
ruined for talent. It's
I
so
think I
unbelievable.
honestly think in ring AEW has far more talent than WWE does. However, I think
Correct.
WWE is really good at pushing the story,
Yes.
and there are definitely people where that's important for yourself. The pushing the story is important. It's less so for me. So I enjoy
Right.
AEW because of the athleticism that's more prevalent there.
Hmm. No, I
That
agree with that. I
like
do.
that said, you blah, blah. I said that said,
Words are hard, huh?
they really are hard. I don't know what's going on. I think
You
it's
know?
I'm also trying to make sure I don't talk about it too like WWE too
Oh,
much
yeah, yeah,
because
yeah.
right. So I'm trying to
I know what you're
not veer
saying, and
off
it
into it.
makes sense. Like they both have their strong suits,
Hmm.
and that's the thing. Focus on your strong suit. Don't
Yeah.
focus on what you're weak on because you're never, like you said, WWE is a machine. It's been around forever. It'd be like if I opened up a fast food restaurant and I want to compete with McDonald's. It ain't gonna happen.
No,
It might happen in 40 years if I have a great business model, but for a while, it's never gonna happen. You're
it's
not
going to
even gonna
draw
be
people
close.
away initially,
Right.
and that's fine. Like that will work. It will draw
Yeah.
people away initially, and then eventually people are going to go like, you know what? I kind of like. I mean, Joe's is great, but I do just want a McDouble.
Yeah. Right.
And
Exactly. There's nothing wrong with that. It's choice,
no, and I
you
think
know?
when it comes down to it, like, I don't watch TNA, but I sure as hell know who Joe Hendry is.
I
I
love
don't,
Joe Hendry.
right?
At least
So
they pulled the trigger on that. Thank God.
I'm so happy he was there. I'm miffed that he wasn't in the Rumble. Anyway, sorry.
Oh yeah, we'll talk about
Um,
that soon.
yeah, we'll talk about that tomorrow. So, folks, if any of this stuff is interesting to you for us talking about the Rumble, please tune in next week because we're gonna go into it in a lot more detail. It
With
is
an expert.
with an expert. Matthew Klein's coming in case you're not picking that up. Joe
Mhm.
and I, it is killing us to not talk about it, but
It is, yeah.
we don't want to rehash it again 2 weeks in a row for you more than for us because we could talk about it quite easily. So that's
So
where the AEW
we're,
focus is trying to be.
exactly. We're gonna pivot though from wrestling. Period. It's gonna be two wrestling heavy episodes. We love wrestling, obviously, but we're gonna
We
pivot
do.
because we'll end on this. Have you heard the news about Hasbro?
No,
Okay.
all right. So I'm gonna say no because even if I have, I still think it's
Oh, okay.
worth you explaining
So the
for
news in Hasbro is because of the success of like their board game Kickstarters, getting into like Magic and all the other things that they've been kind of doing with some of those Kickstarters,
Mhm.
they want to veer away from Arizona. No, sorry. They want to veer away from toys. So they want to basically dissolve all their IPs with the exception of right now, they said Transformers. Now, does this mean that they're going to just stop making toys? I don't think so, but what I think they're going to do is start licensing out their licenses to bigger name, like, well, not bigger names, but other names. So like they're going to keep Transformers in house. That's their baby. So is GI Joe. They're both Hasbro IPs that were created under Hasbro. But they didn't talk about GI Joe. They talked about Transformers. But what does that do? That leaves Marvel Legends up in the air. Now, do I think we'll lose like Ryan Dwight in them? No, but you could see them work under a different umbrella. And the thing I'm trying to get at is there's a very interested buyer for that license. And you want to take a guess who it is?
The Marvel Legends license? I assume it's Todd
You,
McFarlane.
you bet your ass. Now, could you imagine if Todd got the Marvel Legends license? Now, I don't think he would do a 7th-inch scale. I think he'd keep the same scale, but I think it would be we wouldn't lose Pinless and all that because he has the molds. I think Todd would do what he did with DC Direct and the animated series. He just re-released it and kept every aesthetic the same for the new figures going forward, so it all stayed. So I don't think he would make them 7 inches or anything, but I think you'd see more Toddisms in
Mm.
Marvel Legends. But that's like the Vince McMahon scenario. You would have Todd would basically have DC and Marvel, the big two. It'd be like the CEO of Burger King owning the CEO of McDonald's.
Yeah, so it's funny. You and I have always said that our Legends collections are almost complete. There's not
Correct.
many now that we would need, and
Right.
I especially so I recently picked up Death's Head. I showed
Yep.
you a photo of him.
That's all
The
right.
only issues I have with him, the cape is too long.
Yeah, and it's
It is
plastic.
yes. So ironically enough, if the cape was shorter, it
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't bother me as much because he's not a character to crouch, etc.
No.
If it was cloth, the length wouldn't bother me. It either needed to be cloth or it should have been a little bit shorter because it
Mm-hmm.
can't quite stand. And ironically enough, the one of the coolest features is how the gauntlets cover the back of his wrist, so it looks like one long piece.
Yeah.
However, makes getting the hands out to put the weapons in really hard, and I'm
Right.
constantly afraid I'm going to snap a peg when I do it. So minor issues, but such a cool figure. So happy I've got him.
Yeah.
And again, like it's one of those things where I didn't expect to get him, and it really does pull the number of figures that I want down significantly that
Big time for
haven't
me
been
too.
announced or haven't been released or announced.
Yeah, but it'll be interesting because again, they just Hasbro, Marvel Legends announced
Yep,
Maximum. I would assume they're going forward with Maximum is going to be,
I would
depending on how
assume.
Spider-Man does, it could be a big thing for them or it could be a bad thing for them. If it's going to be $60, like the rumored price is, it's going Arizona go. It's going to be a bad thing because you cannot charge $60 for these figures.
No, I think that I agree. I 100% agree. I think if it's going
Yeah,
to be like 40 to 50, and we're talking US dollars here, obviously.
correct, correct.
So remind me, the price for Legend in the States is 25?
27 right now for the average
Okay.
Legend. And then
That's
deluxes are like 30. No, deluxes are at least 40.
okay. So I think in Canada they're 35 as a basic Legend. And then
That's a lot.
it is, but it's actually less than I was expecting, given I thought you were going to say in the States they're 25.
No,
So
they're 27
eh,
right now.
yeah, so anyway, so I that being said, like they've been 35 for quite a while, which I'm not unhappy about in terms of
Hmm.
the price not raising too much. Some of them are closing in on $40, but again, that's to be expected.
But what I think the main thing about this is it kind of answers, the people who say that, Legends far outsells McFarlane all the time. If that was the case, they wouldn't be trying to offshoot these brands. They only offshoot brands when they're not making as much profit as they possibly can.
Yep.
So,
I also
you know,
think that they're probably noticing a like some kind of competition with jaded toys. Like you look at what
agreed.
you get in a Street Fighter figure,
Hmm.
right? So I will turn around and grab one of them. Like so, okay, so we'll look at Ryu, one of the first ones. So you would assume that it's going to be less than some of the others. You
Right.
get the figure, two heads, two hands, the stand, and the Hadouken fire effect,
Yeah, it's
right?
really good.
For all of them, you get at least two heads, you get two
Hmm.
hands, and usually some kind of fireball or projectile effect,
Right.
right? So that's a surprising amount for what you get given of what you get in comparison to a legend, and they're
Correct.
cheaper than legends. Now, I
Right.
recognize that the license is probably cheaper, but these figures are pinless. They have a double ball jointed torso,
Right.
right? Like all of the same articulation other than that than with legends, and they're just to me they edge on superior to a Marvel Legend at this point.
I 100% agree. And they're like the new kid on the block. Like they're
Hmm.
new to the game, so to speak. Like Jada Toys has been around in, like the metal statue type of like
Yeah,
um, forever. But like they're new when it comes to 6-inch action figures, and they're eating Legends lunch all day long
all day long.
because they're giving you so much
Hmm.
for the same price. Same thing with McFarlane. Brady, no, I had to put him in a cage because he was just becoming too much.
Ah,
Yes, I know. We're almost done. Stop it. Sorry, but
no,
yeah,
we can. I know we've been chatting for a while. We can wrap soon if he needs to go
yeah,
in.
we're gonna wrap. Before I wrap, how is Shorzy? I need to know.
All right, so it's obviously really good,
Of course.
right? I'm really enjoying the fact that this season it's in summer,
Okay.
so you get a lot of their summer activities,
Yeah.
and you see Shorzy struggling with who he is post hockey.
Outside hockey. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's really the key theme is who is Shorzy outside of hockey is
Right.
the main kind of thing stringing the show together.
Hmm.
But then you've also got Nat, like, how do I keep these idiots busy during the off season
Yeah.
when there's nothing going on? So it's a little bit less of a cast because Sanger's gone home. Some of the
Oh.
other players have gone back home to Quebec or wherever. So
Okay.
you only see some of the Sudbury guys or the people
Hmm.
that have moved to Sudbury. So you get Shorzy, Goody, Hitch,
Yeah, I saw
Matthews,
the
and
trailer. It
Dolo.
basically you see, you know, the usual suspects.
Yeah,
But I
exactly.
thought the whole thing was Shorzy was going to be the head coach, and that's what I was. Well, I mean, you
That
don't have to ruin it, but that's what I'm
no, so
excited to see.
I'm not gonna ruin it completely because I'm only really 2 or 3 episodes in. I
Mhm.
think I'm only about 2 episodes in. So the first episode has, I think it's the first episode, maybe it's the second, but he's doing the web talk show, and you see Sean Avery come on and
Okay.
different things. So there's a lot of really cool things that way, and you still get Shorzy moments,
No Arizona. Back up.
but he's very much he's still very much the same character, but he's clearly
Right.
lost and doesn't
Arizona.
know
No.
what he's doing.
Sorry.
No,
That
that's
was
fine.
so quick.
I was going to say Arizona, for folks who aren't aware, is the dog that Joe's
Yes, it
hanging
is
out
my
with.
mother's dog, and she
Yeah,
is just this very free-spirited dog, and
yeah,
she's way younger than Brady, so it's like a complete juxtaposition between the two of them where he's old and set in his ways and she's young and wants to play, and I
yeah.
think she thinks my dog is beautiful because she like just keeps staring at him, and my dog could care less if unless she's a steak, he has no
He's
interest in
indifferent.
her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So, but yeah, no, I'm definitely gonna
yeah,
catch Shorzy. Um, I thought it was, we'll talk about it tomorrow, but like, I thought it was a cool nod that Punk wore a
yeah.
Sudbury Blue dog. Oh my God, dude, that was so amazing. That
I
put it over the
I
top for me.
Oh, it was so good. I actually messaged my friend about that. I was like, "Holy shit, Punk's
I couldn't
wearing it."
believe it.
I was like, "Holy shit, is Punk wearing a
Yeah,
Shorzy shirt?" Like, I knew the answer, but
right.
again,
Oh,
like
it was awesome.
they either they have listened to the show we did about Shorzy or they haven't, but they haven't told me about it. So
Yeah, that's do like. Do they know you have a show?
they do, they do.
Do okay. Do they know
Again,
where
like
to find it?
they do because every so often they listen to it.
Interesting. So they've listened to it before.
Yeah, which is
Huh.
why I was like, there's no way this is gonna last. So Now, I deliberately did the title as Hell Yeah, Fuck Yeah. So if they were going through
Right.
looking for stuff, it would show up. Anyway, they tend to listen when we talk wrestling, I think. So maybe this will be the
Yeah, I mean,
moment where they
they
figure it out.
troll you. They're trolling you,
They
guys. If you're
have to be.
listening,
They have
you
to
are
be.
absolutely trolling him at this
And
point. There is
I
no
love it.
way.
I love it. Like I love the fact that I'm still doing it and they're
Right.
not reacting to it. I think it's fantastic.
It's so funny because, like, you would think they have, like, I mean, you've dropped so many lines deliberately that they have to know. Like, if they like the show as much as we do, they literally have to know where those lines come from.
They've
And you
got
even
to.
said that you dropped. Did you do what you said you were going to do and use the line in the first episode of the new season?
Not yet, because I haven't actually seen him in person. Because I've been I've been avoiding going into the office for a bit, so I haven't really seen him in person. But
Ah, okay.
but I will.
But
So
we'll wrap here because we're kind of circling, and
this is true.
we've got a big one tomorrow with Matthew. I'm excited for
Same.
all you guys and our predictions, and one big one that, oh, I cannot wait to get into it with the
Yeah.
two of you.
All right. So
So
before we end up touching on it more than we already should,
exactly,
folks, you know where to find us. It is in the show notes. We have updated them a little bit because I really haven't used Twitter in quite some
ages,
time, ages.
ages.
So
Yeah,
there's my Bluesky information on there. I don't post a lot on there, but I do actually pay attention to the notifications. So if there is anything you want to get a hold of me for, that's probably the best spot to do it in as it stands right now.
nice.
That being said, I got nothing. Well, no, that's not true. We both have a lot left to talk about, but we're not going to because Joe
Exactly.
has some dogs to deal with, and I've got to go make some supper.
There
So
you go.
we will. You'll hear from us next week, but I'll see you tomorrow.
Hey, thanks for watching the previous video from Graphic Policy Television. Just by watching, you help support our site. Thank you so much. Now, if you're watching these videos, you probably care about geeky things like movies, television, comic books, toys, games, video games, you name it. You can go and subscribe right now to our YouTube channel to stay in touch and catch all the new videos, or check out our website at graphicpolicy.com. There's a nice link on this end of the video. But as always, thank you for watching. Keep on rocking and keep it geeky.